Hello, everybody. How you doing? Dave Fennoy here, and welcome once again to Ask Dave Fennoy Anything here on Facebook Live. So happy when people show up, have some questions, have some comments. I wish we could do this, back and forth and people talking. They haven't quite let us do that just yet, but I'm sure at some point that will be coming. Hey, hello, Tim, James, Thomas, Chris, Rory, Eric. Hang in there, Eric. Going to be talking about you in just a little bit. Before we jump into questions and comments and whatnot, just a reminder again, coming up this month, God, we're a couple of weeks away now, the 17th and 18th. That's voiceover and the Voice Arts Awards. It goes back and forth between New York and Los Angeles. And this is a Los Angeles year. And for a lot of people who are interested in getting into voiceover, or you've started and you want to meet some people, it's going to be a great place to get your toes wet, find out what it's all about, see who's there. And then on Sunday, of course, at the Voice Arts Awards, we'll be patting ourselves on the back. And I don't say that trying to be funny. We work very hard, and we need to recognize one another for the good work that we do. All right, I was perusing Facebook earlier today, and a buddy of mine, Eric Romanowski, good talent, good producer of some demos, had a little comment here. It says, "We need to raise the bar. Demo producers, coaches, talent. Too many people bring false hope. No, voiceover isn't for everyone. Stop sugarcoating. The truth can hurt, but being lied to hurts more." And of course, I know that is a concern for a lot of people who are interested in taking voiceover, getting into voiceover, and who do I study with. There are some people out there that really are only interested in your money. But I think there are, well, as a matter of fact, I know there are a lot of really, really fine people who are teaching. And I'm happy to know many of them. There were a number of comments about this. And I imagine the people who are on now have thought about, who do I work with? Who do I study with? And if you're studying and somebody says, hey, you really don't have this, should you quit? I'll tell you a little bit about my story. When I was getting into radio, I had a program director that told me, well, you'll never make it in radio because there's something wrong with your voice. And I spent 10 years in radio in the Bay Area and was morning man at a couple of the top stations there. When I started knocking on the doors of voiceover, I was doing what I call informational interviews, which, if I don't know if everybody talks about that anymore, but I was just trying to get around to people who hired voices for television and radio and TV promos, talk to as many people as I could to find out what it was they were looking for in voice talent. I had a guy tell me, well, you know what? We've already got enough people in voiceover. You need not apply. And it kind of made me wonder about him. But here I am. It's been almost 30 years, and I had a successful career in radio and an even more successful career in voiceover. Also, I've had students. I remember a young lady came for a private. She wanted to do some narration, and she was a sing-songer at the time, and she kept, and da-da-dee-da-da-da, and I went, oh, stop. Just tell me. How do you feel? Just tell me. And at the end of the hour, she began to get it. But I know in my mind, I was thinking, well, I don't know. But a year later, she was being nominated for awards for one of her demos. So you can't always tell who's going to get it and who's not. And you certainly can't tell by the quality of somebody's voice because I think every voice can work for voiceover. If you've got a big, deep voice, it might even be a problem for you. I've said oftentimes the more beautiful your voice, the faster bad acting shows up. Anyway, before I jump into anything else, hey, Crystal Lee Brown, want to congratulate you on that game we were talking about that I won't mention what it is, but nicely done, nicely done. And also Layla Barron's, voiceover actor in town. She made a post today. She got on World of Warcraft. And I want to thank you publicly again for acknowledging my help with that. Before she did the audition, we did an hour session, and she booked it. Now, does that mean if you do an hour session with me, or I don't think we even did an hour, we did half an hour. Are you going to book it? No, not necessarily. Might improve your chances. Probably would improve your chances, but there's no guarantees there. And it's not like Lila didn't have tremendous talent to begin with. But I appreciate the shout out. And let's see. I saw Eric. Oh, thanks. You're welcome, Eric. It engendered some great comments. And I love that about this community when something can come up and we talk about it. So if you're one of those people that your teacher's looking at you a little funny, or you've had somebody say, well, you should forget it. You'll never make it in this business. You don't necessarily have to take that to heart. Not everybody can do everything in this business. I know there are people who do narration. They're never going to do any cartoons. They're never going to do any video games, or probably not. But they're killing it in narration or e-learning. There are people who are doing TV promos, never going to do any animation, never going to do any video games. Well, probably not. But they're killing it in the area they're working in. So just because you're not doing that well over here, don't have a real talent feel for it, doesn't mean you can't do something over here. So don't let people steal your dreams. And I guarantee you have an expiration date on anything you try. You might not know what that expiration date is, but if you jump into something, music, actor, voiceover, art, whatever it is, there will come a point where if you've been knocking on these doors, your knuckles are bloody, your arm is tired, and you're not eating well, and there's no roof over your head, you're going to come to a point where you decide you need to do something else. You will know. Don't let anybody steal your dream. All right. That said, I need to ask this. Why clients still need promo voice high and loud? No one sale or talk like that. What do you think? Well, much as we try to teach people to be understated, to be natural, to be conversational, there's a lot of stuff that has a lot of hype. I end up doing a number of things that are in that big push, powerful promo voice or a real high energetic voice. There's still a place for that. Now, the majority of people in voiceover, the majority where the society is leaning is not that, but it's still there. All right. Oh, thank you, Retina. Hey, Jesse. Well, thank you. I got another one, Jesse Keenan there. You're part of the reason I booked Red Dead, and that game is killing. It's going crazy. Thomas, I guess I have an issue with having fatigue show up in my voice, so I have to roll back to the point before I think start sounding tired. This is bad. Is there training I can go through to not have it come through my performance? When you're talking about fatigue, are you talking about just overall fatigue, or your voice is getting tired from talking? A lot of us get that. I get that too. That's why we keep hot water, honey, and lemon around. Sometimes you have to take a break. On video games, if you're doing some stuff, about every hour they're going to give you a little time. Let your voice relax. Take some deep breaths. Let that voice soothe. And of course, if you've really blown it out, don't talk, and certainly don't whisper. Whispering is harder on your voice than trying to talk when you've got that cold or a sore throat. All right. Oh, hey, Andrew. Oh, damn, I'm headed to bed now in the UK. Good night, Dave. Good night. Well, you know what? You can go to YouTube. This will be up on YouTube before tomorrow. And, all right. Oh, what else did I want to talk about? I had a student today send me an email and ask me, would it be okay for him to invoke my name, as he wanted to get in touch by email with some video game developers, and let them know that, he'd been working with me. That would be just fine, except for one thing. We haven't worked that long. We've worked on some things, but I don't believe he has a video game demo. I wrote him back, and the advice I gave him, and I'm sharing this story with you for your own information and advice. There's no reason to get in touch with somebody who can hire you for voiceover if you don't have a demonstration of what you can do, what you might sound like. This guy has a great voice. He has a wonderful voice. I love his instrument. And I think if he continues working hard like he's working now, he's going to be able to do some wonderful things. However, you only have one chance to make a first impression, and if that one chance you have sent people, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I'd like to do some of your video games, and then they're, oh, great, well, where's your demo? We'd love to listen to it. Well, I'm going to be making that demo soon. No. Make the demo first. Get yourself completely prepared, then get in touch. Now, what I did suggest that he do, and I think is a good idea for people, is to do your research. Find the companies that are producing video games, TV promos, narrations, e-learning, whatever the discipline is, and start building your roster of people to get in touch with when you're ready, or if you're already ready. So no demo, no get in touch with, okay? Okay. Let's see if we got another question there. Y'all don't want to just hear me ramble. Okay. I need some more questions here. Because it's not fair, man. This is a two-way street. You've got to, give me something to work with. What's been the toughest challenge for you in your voiceover journey? I think usually the toughest thing for anybody is getting started. Finding your way when you're just beginning. That was pretty tough. I was very fortunate. I had a career going in radio when I decided, hey, this voiceover thing is kind of cool. I think I'll do that. So in some ways that transition wasn't that hard, but I had the radio read, and my voice was here every time. And everything I read kind of came out like this. And because you're over-enunciating and coming from that pukey place in your voice all the time, I wasn't getting booked. And people would say, oh, no, be more conversational. And I didn't understand what that meant. And it took me a while, even after I got down here to L.A., to really understand what conversational meant. Now, I'm going to say something about that whole radio voice and whatnot. You notice it just came out when I was doing that? You don't need to get rid of it. You just need to be able to do something else, because I can't tell you how much money I've made being that guy. So you never want to throw anything away. You want to keep, but you just want to keep adding different things to your toolbox. What am I excited about right now? What are you allowed to talk about? Um, Most of the things I'm really excited about, I can't talk about. There's some video games that, I've signed the NDA, can't say anything. There are some commercials that I've signed NDA and can't say anything until they come out. But some good things are happening. And I'm actually, much to my dismay, it's not really dismay, embarrassment a little. I'm excited about teaching. I did not think when I started teaching that I would enjoy it as much as I do enjoy it. And I mean, I've been enjoying it for a while now, but when I first started, it was like, well, I might as well, people keep asking me, I might as well do it. And the more I do it, the more I do it and the more I enjoy it. And the little needle there is because my mom always told me, son, you should be a teacher. And I went, Mom, you're a teacher. I'm not bringing home any homework. I'm going to do something where I don't have to, grade papers after school. So it's always a little chuckle when I talk with her that you're teaching now, aren't you? Yeah, Mom, I'm teaching some now too. Let's see. Ryan Everly, some VO folk have told me to stay away from USB microphones. What's your opinion on them? I'm not a huge fan of USB microphones, but they've gotten much better over the years. If you go back 10 years or so ago, when you plugged them in, they created a little bit of noise. That was kind of annoying. They were also created for the low end of the voice market, so they weren't always the best microphones to begin with. However, they have gotten a lot better. The little Apogee iPad mic that I'm talking to you through now is a very, very good mic. Sennheiser has their MK4, which you can get in an Apogee iPad version, which is very good. Rode makes some good ones. MXL makes some good ones. I believe Blue makes some good ones, but stay away from the Snowball and the Yeti. So ultimately, Ryan, what I would suggest is when you can afford an XLR mic, get the XLR mic, a good condenser. But until then, you'll be okay with that. Hey, Eric, what's up, buddy? My mom must be a great woman. She is a great woman. As a matter of fact, if you open a dictionary and it's you're looking up lady, there'll be a picture of her. Wow. Jonathan McKay. Nice to see you, Dave. You look fulfilled today. So how does one handle laryngitis? You just have to rest your throat. You really have to rest your throat. Keep the liquids coming, the warm liquids, the tea, and people like different kinds of tea. Peppermint tea, mint tea, green tea. I'm not always pleased with the caffeinated teas when you're ill because you need your rest and the caffeine will keep you awake. But the lemon, the honey, the warm water, that's good for you. And rest. Ouch, my first mic was a snowball. You'd be surprised how many people's first mic was a snowball or a Yeti. I remember years ago when the Yeti first came out, and not that I was going to buy one, but I looked at it and went, wow, this is a weird mic. And it has a few little bangs and whistles, and that can be, if you don't know, you don't know. Does ginger tea work for laryngitis? Ginger tea is very good. I should have mentioned that. Ginger in general is very good for you, and it's something you ought to have in your diet anyway. Do you have a mic? Do you have a mic got when you travel, or do you only record in your studio? No. As I've mentioned before, when I travel, I take my travel gear with me, which includes an iPad, a MacBook Pro, and I can use either one, but I believe in, having backups. So if I'm using the iPad, then the MacBook is a backup. If I'm using the MacBook, then the iPad is a backup. I bring my little Apogee iPad mic and USB mic that I use. I bring a Chaotica eyeball that I put over that mic, and that's my travel gear. Now, I used to have to travel with the whole of the suitcase. Don't have to do that anymore. Technology has lightened the load. Hey, Jeff Jordan, what's going on? Thank you for your answer. Talk with you soon. Okay, was there anything else I wanted to talk about? Come on, you've got some other questions here. How'd you guys feel about the election? No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about voiceover. What else did I saw some articles today. Some people were mentioning, and one from Joan Baker on Eric Romanowski's article, and she had some good things to say about her teaching. And when you're doing this, this community knows one another, and if you're BSing people, it's gonna come out. People are gonna find out. Oh, here's one. Can you write in the comments, what's the thing you cover your mic with? A Chaotica eyeball. K-A-O-T-I-C-A. Chaotica. I think so. Chaotica eyeball. And as a matter of fact, wait 1 second. I'll be right back. I put it in the studio. I was keeping it on a shelf in the studio. It's this little thing, which is really just a foam ball with a hole in it here that your microphone goes in. And they call it the eyeball because of this thing. So your mic will be facing out this way. You put this back on. And what this does is it keeps sound from bouncing. Usually if you're in like a hotel room or a room that hasn't been treated for sound, you'll get that echoey sound bounce. And this prevents that. And I remember when they came out with these, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. And the first few times I tried it, I didn't like it. I was trying to go this way. And really, if you're just, several inches away, it works really, really well. I think they're overpriced, $200 and something bucks for just a ball of foam. And this, I guess, we're paying for R&D. But this sucker works. This sucker works well. I wouldn't necessarily suggest it for your home studio that this is going to get you through everything. But if you've got to travel and you've got to get those auditions in, and I've even done jobs with this thing, then it's goodbye. It's goodbye. Sit over there, eyeball. All right. Dave, do you think one should do lessons with someone before doing their demo? Oh, absolutely. Abso-effing-lutely. One of the biggest mistakes people make is to really not get the right training. And even if the right training, maybe you're just a genius. Maybe you don't need any voiceover training. Maybe you're just that good. And I assume there's some people who are. I know there are actors and actresses who have never had acting lessons and are brilliant. So you might find somebody like that in voiceover. But you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know what a good demo is, just listening to a bunch of demos may not reveal that to you. You have to have something that you're hanging your opinions on. And if you don't know, if you're just out there in the breeze, you probably will make some mistakes that people will judge you on that, may hurt your career down the line. Once again, that first impression needs to be a good one. So, yeah, you need to be ready. I would suggest being in a position where whoever it is you're working with as a coach or coaches signs off on, yeah, I think you're ready to do this, as opposed to, you know what, I'm just ready. I'm doing this now. And don't do it yourself. have some help. You need another pair of ears. It's very difficult for us as individuals to be objective about ourselves. We either love ourselves too much or don't love ourselves enough. You need somebody else who their opinion isn't based on, how they feel about you as a person. Their ego isn't involved. It's, is this person going to work? Is this person not going to work? Can this person do this? Can this person not do this? Excuse me. All right. And let's talk about lessons and classes. If you're somebody that's just starting out, I really recommend taking classes before you jump into private lessons. Why, you ask? Oh, I'll tell you. I think when you get into a class, a couple of things happen. One, you get to learn from the successes and failures of, let's say, challenges, the successes and challenges of your fellow students without your having to be on the line and worried about, I really want to be good and I'm embarrassed because all these people are here and I messed that up and can I read that word and all that stuff that's going on in your mind. Because I guarantee it, I don't care who you are, when you take a class, you want to step to the microphone and wow everybody. Yeah, I know you went in there, I want to learn, but every time you get up to read, you want to wow everybody. You want everybody, oh man, wow, you're really good, geez. Well, that's not going to happen. You're going to have some success and you're going to have some challenged reads. And this gives you an opportunity to take it in when you're not the one that is doing that challenge read. The more you do this, the more confidence you get. The less being in front of the mic in front of a class is going to affect you, because I guarantee when you're in a studio in front of the engineer and the producer and who knows how many people from the ad agency and the product company, you better come in there and be ready to go, because that can be, it's just you in the booth by yourself and all of them on the other side of the glass. I had a voice acting teacher, one of my first, as a matter of fact, tell the story of her being in the booth doing a commercial. And she had done a couple of takes and I said, hold on for a minute, okay? And of course, you can't hear what they're saying. They cut off the microphone. But she could see the animated conversation that was going on. And people seemed like they were disagreeing with one another. And, for a couple of times they were pointing to her and people were shaking their heads this and other people were shaking it. And she's like, oh my God, I must have screwed this up. It's terrible. Oh no, what am I going to do? And when they pushed the button again, oh yeah, we were trying to decide what to have for lunch. And should we order something for you too? What would you like? We decided to go with Thai. You don't know. And it can be a little nerve-wracking. So anyway, Nathaniel, glad you mentioned the Apogee. Was going to ask about mics. Thanks. And there's always new mics coming out, by the way. I kind of like buying mics. I have a collection, but I always seem to come back to my two favorites. My Sennheiser 416 and my Neumann TLM 103. Those just seem to work best for me. Yeah, I have a U87. It's a great mic. U87 likes a really big room. And if you don't have a really big room, high ceilings, it doesn't sound as good. It gets a little finicky. I don't like this room. I'm not going to sound good. And the 103 has the exact same capsule, but it is much more forgiving. It's probably more used. Well, I don't know about that. But you see them a lot. Another microphone a lot of people are sleeping on is the TLM 170R. That I've had one for years, one of the first microphones I bought. Studio was going out of business, and you see them used a lot in animation and some video games. So that's one. They're a little expensive, but really good mic. Oh, yeah. I've got one. Eyeball sounds good, but when traveling, get some reverb from space. Any advice? But when traveling, got some reverb from space. I have not had that problem with my eyeball. Maybe you're too far away from the eyeball because part of you gets in the way when you're a little bit closer. You don't want to be right up on it, but it works really well. I know there are some friends of mine who like to pack them with like towels, have the microphone in there and even more stuff around them. I don't know about that. If it's working for them, great. I'm not ready to try that just yet. Haven't had that problem. Andrew, let's talk another time about that and what's going on with your eyeball. Can you talk about your marketing efforts and when you first started out? Well, it was a different world when I started my voiceover career. You had to be A, in the union, B, in Chicago, New York, or Los Angeles to really have a career. And you had an agent, and your agent and maybe a manager took care of a lot of that. But yes, I did do some marketing. Back then, what you had to do was get a bunch of copies of your reel-to-reel. God, I'm dating myself. Some copies of your reel-to-reel, that quarter-inch tape. I know some of you children have no idea what that is. But there was a time that we lived in a what they called an analog world. And you'd have to get copies of that, and you would send them around to the ad agencies and the broadcast producers. And then cassettes arrived on the scene, so now you would have cassettes. Well, that was a little easier and cheaper than the reel-to-reel, but you had to do the same thing. And, of course, there's the printing of the covers for the cassettes. And, of course, the cassettes, there was only one thing you would put on them. So if you were doing promos, you had a promo cassette. If you were doing promos and narration, well, then you had to have that separate narration. And if you were doing commercials, which is probably what you did first, you had that narration demo. And you're sending these things out. You're spending money on mail. And then we got to DATs, which were fairly expensive, but a little better quality as we began to move into the digital world. And ultimately, then there were CDs, which were cheaper, and now where we are now with MP3s. But you were asking about my marketing efforts. Well, I would make these things and get lists from my agents of broadcast producers, TV promo producers. Weren't video games happening then. Animation companies and their directors and casting directors and agents, and you would send your stuff out to them. It was very expensive. You can almost do it all now from your computer. You can do the research to find out who's who. You can find their email and your demos that are living in the digital world. You can just send. It's amazing. At that time, I had agents in New York and here. And if you got an audition that was due the next day, you had to, get it recorded, get it on one of those forms of reel-to-reel or DAT or cassette or whatever you're going to put it on, and get to the post office for next day delivery or to FedEx for next day delivery by 4:30 so it could be in New York by the next day. And it was going to cost you about $16. So you're doing the calculation in your mind. Well, every time I have to send and now it's free. Got an MP3, just email it off. Oh, we live in a better world. All right, Crystal Lee Brown, is there a great site where I can hear samples of people's demo? Yeah, agents. You can go to voice casting agents and just go to their demos. I haven't been on VoiceBank in a while since they were bought by Voices.com, that evil Voices.com. But go to some voiceover agents, CESD, SBV, TGMD. There's a bunch of them out there. And you can go to their sites and listen to demos. And there'll be demos, commercial demos, narration demos, TV promo demos, animation demos, video game demos. And knowing what you just did and what you're up to, you might want to start calling some voiceover agents. I know you're primarily an on-camera actress, but you're doing some voiceover now, and you might want to, or maybe your on-camera agent handles voiceover. I don't know. But if they don't, you might want to knock on some doors of some voiceover agents and let them know what it is you're doing. I'd be happy to give you an introduction if you like. Because, what you just did, somebody's going to be interested in. Thomas, you've used both the Sennheiser MK4 digital USB mic and the Apogee. Which one? It's the 96, I think it is. It's their second one. They've got a new one out. It's got a few more bells and whistles. I haven't bothered to get one because this one works just great. Which do you prefer for your travel mic and why? I actually think the MK4 is a little bit better of a mic. It has a bigger diaphragm. It's a full-size microphone. I end up traveling with the Apogee more often, however, because it's smaller and fits into my bag better. So, and that's the only reason. Sometimes there's a piece of equipment that it is the very best, and it costs, let's say, $2,500, and there's another piece of equipment that nobody's gonna know the difference because it's good too, but it's $1,000. Still, costs you some money. But is the price difference enough that you're gonna pay that extra $1,500? Another thing, and I'm not saying you don't want a quality studio because you do. But we have gotten very forgiving of absolute pristine video and absolute pristine sound. The number of videos people are shooting in their homes, the amateur videos, even some television shows that have been shot kind of funky and shaky, have broadened our view of what quality is. So if it's not pristine, it's just one pristine, it'll work. All right. Is it good to have headshots in voiceover? Interesting idea. When I first started, I wouldn't put a headshot on because I wanted to work not only ethnic work, but I wanted to work general market work. And I didn't want some producers to go, oh, he's a black guy, so he should be doing that black stuff and none of this general market stuff. So I wouldn't for a long time, but I've been around and doing this enough and have enough credits that's, as a matter of fact, now who I am, hair and all, is a plus for me. I'm not sure that's going to work for everybody, but I think sometimes, especially if your signature sound really matches your look, it can work. If you're a millennial person and you're marketing yourself in this very real millennial read, you're that quirky girl from wherever, and you got the glasses and you're kind of goofy and whatnot, and your reads are, and that sells you, then yeah, maybe, or a cartoon figure of yourself. I don't think you have to do it. But I think it works for people more now than it used to. Best thing, of course, be really good. Be really good. All right. Wendy Shapiro. Love her. Yeah, she would fit that bill. Was there a voice? There was a voicebank.com, but voices.com. Yeah, I know that. That's why I haven't been there in a while. And and voices.com is the devil. What do you think about worldvoices.org? Don't know a lot about them. Sorry, I have heard of them. I have not heard necessarily bad things nor particularly good things about them. But I tell you what, why don't you do a little research and let me know what you found out, and then I can, kind of, well, this sounds good, this sounds bad. Danny, when are we recording together, Dave? Whenever, man, whenever. Ran into my buddy Danny at we were at the Phil Collins concert. We have a mutual friend who sings with Phil Collins, and she got us all some amazing seats, and hadn't seen that. God, what has it been? About a year? But it was a great time, and you see Danny in a lot of commercials. I'm sure you're doing some films and TV shows, and way to go. Anyone have any input on that? On what? That was probably voicebankvoices.com. Good, yeah. Write it up. I do well with one other person directing me, but a host of others in the next room freaks me out. How do I get over this? You just do. This is the business that we are in. And if you're recording in your own home studio by yourself, they are trusting you to do it. Great. You're comfortable with that. Super. I often actually feel better when I have a director in the room. Not that I don't think I can direct myself, but what I think it should be and what they think it should be may be two different things. So you want to give them you, but they may have a little different spin. And if I'm in the room with the director, or have the director on the phone, say, oh yeah, I like that, but can you give me a pause here? This is the word we want to emphasize here. Or can you make it just a little bit more conversational, or not quite so conversational? Where can you make it a little deeper and gravelier? Whatever that is. I like having that director there to let me know that. It goes both ways with me. I get clients who, send me the copy and go for it. And clients said, oh, we'll be on. I had a directed session today that they were very, very picky about what they wanted, and it's coming with we love you. We love your voice. We love what you do. We're going to be very, very picky about the takes that we take. Which happens a lot, especially in commercials. I had somebody in a commercial once say, listen, can you shorten the S sound on the end of that S? It's like socks. Can you, just shorten that, socks? Really? You heard that? The length of the S on it. Okay. I think probably commercials, they are the most specific. But Thomas, one of the things you want to do is adopt the mindset that you are the specialist that is helping them get what they need. Sometimes we kind of go into think, oh, gee, if you'll only hire me, oh, they've hired me, oh gosh, I hope I'm good. No, you want to go in with the mindset, they hired me because I'm a professional. They hired me because I can give them what it is they want. That's why they're hiring you. You are the professional. You are the expert. You are the person they had to come to get this done. Does that mean you become a prima donna and I'm sorry, I can't work in these conditions? No. But it does mean that the fact that you are being hired is the proof that you deserve to be there and that you have a certain amount of expertise that you want to give. Students of mine, classes of mine have heard me say we are artists, but we are also technicians. So you want to be that person that, delivers the feel of the copy, and at the same time, sometimes what they're looking for, oh yeah, that needs to be, half a second shorter. Can you speed that up? Can you slow that down? Give me a comma there. Say it faster. Oh, that needs to be quiet. Sometimes it's just give them what they want. Please accept my friend request. I did say ask anything. I did the reel-to-reel demos. That's the way they call it, a demo reel still today. Well, they still call them reels and demos, but they're not reels. That was back in another time. John Malone, what's going on, man? Hello, Brian. How you doing? Andrew, agents are the clue? What were we talking about there? You know, when you respond to something, give me a little more information about what we're responding to, because we're doing a lot of stuff here. So I'm answering a lot of questions, and it's linear, and sometimes I don't remember what that was. Since video games weren't happening when you first started, what genre did you excel in most? TV promos and animation. Mostly TV promos more than animation, but I was doing animation as well. I was principal on several cartoons and did a lot of guest appearances on cartoons. But I was one of the voices for the Disney Channel. I was doing promos for CBS, the WB, ABC, SoapNet, long list of CNN, long list of promo work, and often under contract to various cable outfits or the Disney Channel a couple of times, and CBS and ABC, I mentioned them. And video games kind of snuck up on me. When video games started, when I started booking those, as in the mid-'90s, so when they really started using voices in a lot of games, and I kind of thought of it at the time as just another form of animation. In many ways, it still is, until you start doing mocap. And they weren't making as many games then as they are now. But little by little, I was building up credits that, once again, I wasn't paying a lot of attention to because I wasn't a gamer. I still am not a gamer. And they weren't showing up on television. And since I didn't have a console, I didn't know. I did the work, came home, waited for the check in the mail. And one day, and it's been almost 10 years now, about 8 years ago, someone got in touch with me, and they had gone online and put together a demo for me, a video demo of games I'd been in. And I went, wow, well, this is great. Gosh, I didn't know I'd been in so many games. I never really kept track. And asked me if I liked it, if I would want any changes. I had to make a few changes, sent it to my agent. They loved it. And I realized then that, I guess I'm a game voice too, aren't I? And this person also, let me, hey, by the way, did you know you've been in some of the biggest games in the world? And I didn't have a clue. I was pretty much a person that, do the job, go home, do your thing, do your auditions, the work will come. Things have changed a bit now. You do have to promote yourself more than I was promoting myself then. And yes, I did promote myself, but I wasn't doing it in video games at that time. But having been doing this since the 90s, since the mid-90s, and being in now somewhere in the mid-300s of games, about 350, 370, I don't know. Video games, I've got pretty good handle on it, and I totally understand the difference between video games and animation. And part of that is because they kind of diverged. The people who are voicing video games, many of them also voice animation, but they understand also the difference between games and animation and where there is crossover. Most of the animation I was doing was adventure-type games. Of course, I did do New Kids on the Block, playing their manager. That really wasn't an adventure. But still, that fit more in line with what I was doing in animation, the video games. And video games have become more real than most of the animation. Video games kind of lean toward the drama as a rule of thumb, with animation leaning towards comedy. Not to say there's not serious cartoons and comical video games, but tendencies. Okay. Hey, Rolanda, what's up? Is anime voiceover union or non-union? I think some of it is going union now, but it has historically been non-union. It may still be. I've done some anime. The anime I've done, like Rodin, playing Rodin on Bayonetta, was union. And there's been some other anime I've done that, for whatever reason, they were under contract, but a lot of it's not. And anime tends to not pay that well. The dividends you get from anime are fans that are rabid. They love their anime, and the voice actors who do the anime, they love them, and you'll go to a ton of conventions and make a lot of money signing autographs and meeting your fans. And it's a little different art. Because what you're doing in anime is, not only are you an actor, but you have to match the lip flap of the Japanese actor who voiced whatever it was before you. And it takes them a lot more words to say what we say. Drives the writers crazy, and it can drive you crazy too. And you really have to boop, 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 and be right in there with the beeps. And once you've heard them, be able to match their rhythm, which is a little different thing than just, I'm in this character and I'm being this and I'm saying this and I'm doing it the way I do it. No, you have to really kind of copy their rhythm. All right. How does the size of a mic diaphragm affect the voiceover recording? Boy, somebody would go this technical, wouldn't you? Basically, the bigger the diaphragm, the more sound pressure it can take, the more accurate it can be with the sound that's hitting it. And even that is based on what the materials are, how well it's made. But the bigger the diaphragm, supposedly the richer the sound you can get out of whatever it is you're recording. Now, that said, the difference between this little mic here, which has a pretty small diaphragm, but it's still very good, and one that's a lot bigger, is noticeable, but not that noticeable. The people who are going to hear it are going to be engineers. I don't know how those guys get their ears that good. I wish my ears were that good. But there's a pretty standard size for microphone diaphragms. And if you're, an MXL standard size microphone, the diaphragm is going to be about the same as your Neumann or some other fantastic microphone. Hey, Michael T, what's up, man? Thomas, what? You're black? Here, I thought you were more of a Coco. LOL. Hey, Dave. Hey, Chris Lewis, what's up? Research? I don't know. I want to do a class with you. When's your next class? Or will you do semi-privates? I'm going to be doing some classes. It'll probably not be until January, February. I'm going to do some more in town. I'm doing, next Tuesday. I'm doing an online class with Julie Williams that you can go to her site. I've posted it on Facebook and a few other places. It's going to be a 2-hour class, voice acting for video games. It's going to be very good. I prefer, my favorite way of teaching voice acting for video games is a 2-day workshop. And I'll be be traveling around doing those and doing some in town here. I'll give you the dates. I'll keep you up to date. So what mic are you using now? Well, the mic in front of me is the Apogee iPad mic. The mic I have hanging in my booth is a Sennheiser 416. Da-da-da-da-da-da. I miss SoapNet. Yeah, that was a great gig. If you normalize when recording, do you normalize first, then add effects, or add the normalization after effects, or both? I add normalization after everything else. That's the last thing I do. Now, knowing how this industry is and how different people have different ways of doing things, just like if I'm going to Santa Monica, I'm going to go one way, somebody else is going to go another way. We both get there. You're going to find some people who don't believe in normalization. That no, I just want to record it right at the right level. So they'll use some compression or limiting or whatnot, so nothing goes outside the bounds, right at the peak level they want it at. I give myself a little more room for error than that. You don't want to record too hot. If it's bouncing into the red too much, it's a problem. But if it's just bouncing a little bit from time to time, you're okay. You want to be in between that -6 and -3 dB. If you can come in there, you're in the sweet spot. If it's, a little right around -6 dB, a little low, you're still fine. But you don't want to be recording so low that when you bring it up, the microphone has picked up not only your voice, but the room tone that you don't want, other little sounds that you don't want, and now you'll have a noisy recording because it'll be all that hum. So you want to record at a decent level, and in my book, normalize after. By the way, nice coaching with I was really happy that worked out for her, and much as I pat myself on the back, she's real good talent. All right. Would you consider a video game voiceover as narration, and how does it compare to animation in general? How is it different? Oh, good question. Well, there's narration in video games. A lot of times you're playing a character that is telling his story and you're narrating. But even then, you have to do the narration from the point of view and the life experience of that character. So that's still a little different than just general narration or corporate narration, because you are really keyed in on playing this character and their worldview and how they feel and what they think. So that does happen. But most of the time in video games, you are playing characters with a particular worldview and particular things that they have to do. They're not narrating. They are interacting with other characters. They are fighting, they are talking, they are running, they are shooting, they are doing all the things you might see anybody do in a movie. And since we have so many games, any kind of movie you can imagine, whatever genre of movie you can imagine, we have that kind of game. We even have rom-com games now, so anything that might be on the silver screen, you're going to find in a video game. And the acting style is similar. So you're going to find video games that have an acting style that you're more dramatic and more Game of Thrones. And you're going to have some video games where it's a little more throwaway and crazy, man. So you, want to know what the game is like, what's the feel of the game and who your character is and how they fit in, what they're thinking, feeling, doing, and the relationships. So I hope that answers it, because that was a big question. I'm doing the technical side, sound design of ADR, automatic dialogue replacement, which is actually all sound replacement. The voiceover for ADR is hard for the voice talent. It takes a special gift. If you're doing cartoons, you end up doing a fair amount of ADR, and of course for movies, they might change a line. An actor might not be available for a line that didn't record well, and you have to find somebody that sounds like this actor to do these lines. I've done some of that. I'm not imitating other actors' voices is not my thing. And there's some people who do it very well, more power to them, and it's a great skill to have. I kind of jealous of them, but it's not what I do. But yeah, ADR is, because it's very exacting. It's almost a little bit like anime, because you're waiting on those beeps, and you've got to match the lip flap and timing of that actor. Was the promo work for networks mainly through an agent? Absolutely. And some through a manager. But mostly through my agents. And most of that work is still coming through agents. Stefan Johnson, Dave, how does one begin to venture into voicing toys? Wow. You know what? That is a good question, because I've never voiced any toys. I know some people who have. And I know there's several women I know who have those high voices, and they went right at it and have done well. And the toy thing is a little different than much of the voiceover that we do. The people I know who do it, once they book a gig, a lot of times that precludes them from doing anything else. They'll be spending 6 months working 5 days a week, voicing stuff for a particular character, because it's going to be the doll, the toys, the whatever the promotion is for those toys, and it can one, be pretty lucrative, but it can be kind of golden handcuffs too. So how to get in? Put yourself together a demo of toy stuff. And when you say toys, I think you mean toys that you push the button and the toy says stuff, things like that. Or do you mean doing the promos for selling toys, which would come through your agent? I tend to record. Okay, Christopher Lewis. Now, Chris comes out of radio, and he has been a production manager in radio stations for a long time. So what he has to say is worth listening to. I tend to record EQ normalized to -3.1 or normalized to 0.1, then limit to -3.1. You're doing a lot of steps there, man. You and I are going to have to talk about that. Jake, and as I mentioned before, as many ways as there are to get from here to New York, there are about that many ways to record what you do first, and what you do next, and what you do next, and what your last step is. Jake, how do you describe the process of having roles? How do you describe the process of having roles? I think what you mean is getting into a role. Well, you want to find out as much as you can about the character that you're playing, and then let that character speak through you. And the things you want to know: how old is that character? How educated is that character? How smart is that character? What's the character's worldview? What are the things that affected that character when that character was young? What's affecting that character now? What is it that character wants? What does that character love? What does that character hate? All of those things, and more, help you find who that character is. And I promise you, the more you're in touch with that character and let that character speak through you, the less you have to worry about the words and how you say them. They will just come out the way they're supposed to. You're playing Explain to You. You're playing Explain to You. I think that must have corrected Jake. I'm not sure. Rama. Yeah. On toys, Val Kelly and Gigi Abram, to name just a couple of the ladies who are doing games. And Isa, Dave, hola, hugs from Bogota, Colombia. Is it usual that we record more and more at home? How much do you edit? Absolutely. The home studio has become a necessity if you're going to take this business seriously. If you're an actor out there and doing a lot of TV and movies, and every now and then you get a voiceover, okay, great, they'll pull you into the studio. But if this is your bread and butter, like it is for me and so many people that I know, you need a home studio. How How much do I edit? Well, I have to edit out all my mistakes. Not that there are many, but you edit a lot. You record something, you listen back, oh, you didn't like that particular way you said something, or there was a click here, or, a plosive or a sibilant S or something. So you have to take it out and put it back in. I personally like to get a whole take and work with that. But sometimes you still end up dropping something in, especially if your time is a factor and you got to get it in, and it's a long piece rather than do this whole 60-second thing. I'm pushing the clock here. I got something else going on, so let me just do that sentence, and I'll read into it, and there we go. But yeah, I do a fair amount of editing. I hit enter accident. Okay. Are empathetic folks better at VO because they may be able to feel the character more? Empathy, actors have to find empathy for the characters they're playing. That's a good word, empathy. Sympathy is, oh, gee, I feel bad for that person. Empathy is, I feel like that person. I feel what you feel. So yeah, you have to be able to feel empathetic and understand, say, a character who is not so savory. Now, we can start sometimes with stereotypes of a bad guy, but if you're really going to have an interesting character that's, not surfacey, not stereotyped, that we want to have some kind of feel for, you have to have empathy for that bad guy's position and how he thinks and how he feels and what brought him to the worldview that allows him to be this bad guy that he is. Sometimes in superhero stories, we get that sometimes with the bad guy, because usually something happened to them in their life that turned them from being a good person to being a bad person. And when you can still let some of that pain come through, it makes you a more interesting character. Good question. What is your DAW of choice? You know what? Twisted Wave. DAW is what software do you use to record? I used to use for years Pro Tools. I still have it, but 99% of the time it's Twisted Wave, and we're at 7:07, so we're gonna get the last few. You guys have been great today, by the way. The questions. Well, that was the last question. Let me see if I missed anything. Colombia. Looking forward to going to Colombia. All right, cool. Chris Lewis, holla, and let's talk about recording and whatnot. And thank everybody for joining me. Some very good questions. I'll, every now and then, if I listen back to this and I went, oh wow, I really didn't answer that the way I wanted to. So don't be surprised if from time to time you get a little note from me. Yeah, that question you asked, let me add this to it. That happens sometimes. Once again, next Tuesday, I'll be doing a 2-hour workshop, voice acting for video games, with Julie Williams. If you'd like to sign up for that, it is on my Facebook page. It's also at davefennoy.com. If you're interested in private coaching, you can go to davefennoy.com and sign yourself up, put yourself on a schedule. And I'll be, I'm going to London in January, and we'll be planning some other things as well. So I'll keep you apprised of that. And don't forget, coming up on the 17th and 18th, that's voiceover on Saturday. And on the 18th, the Voice Arts Awards, I'll be there. I'll be dressed to the nines. Would love to see you. I know a lot of you are going. It's going to be a great time. So all the best, and see you next Wednesday when you can ask Dave Fennoy anything. Bye.